Right now, there's a question of whether we have a quorum. I guess we need 75 people. There was a break, and this is going to be the end of it.
Article 3-2, which was an amendment to the GPOD map. And maybe the sound is on now. It kind of takes a little while. It's like an old well. It takes a little while to get up to the surface. We're taking up Article 3-2, and which is the amendment to the G-Pond map, and I recognize Jeff Moore. Keep talking.
My name is Jeff Nealick. I live at Talladega Drive on the Cherry Glenwood. Mr. Moderator, move that the town amend the groundwater protection overlay district and map by adopting the current Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection Zone 2 boundary as set forth in Appendix J of the 2015 Appendix book.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Mr. Neal.
Mr. Moderator, I would ask the Commission to have Patrick Reffett address this. Mr. Reffett is our new Director of Planning and Inspections. He started here in November. He's been terrific at working with the Planning Board and other town committees and boards. He's just been fantastic. We're very fortunate to have him, and he knows most of our position.
I will recognize Patrick Reffert with not everything else that you said that was nice.
I thank you anyway, Mr. Moderator. Good afternoon. I'll make this very short and sweet. About 2 years ago, the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection decided they wanted to change the groundwater wellhead protection area within our community. At that time, what they did was empirical decision-making on their part, which now requires that the town modify its groundwater protection overlay district to make that zoning district consistent with what the state has determined that groundwater wellhead protection zone to be. So it's simply taking a larger area, as you'll see on the map handout. Used to be the blue line. The state modified that inward a little bit to what's now that consistent purple line on that large map. So that's the minor change that they are requiring that the town do as part of its groundwater protection overlay district. And that's the request that we modify accordingly.
Thank you. Any discussion or comments on the motion? Not. Let's proceed with the vote. The vote requires a 2/3 vote. And as described, all those in favor, please hold up your cards. Thank you. Nays, please hold up your cards. The motion passes by 2/3, and I so declare. Article 3-3, site plan review to the planning board. To recognize Rob McKean of the planning board.
Hi, I'm clerk of the Township Planning Board. I move that the town amend the zoning bylaw, as seen, to transfer site plan review authority from the Zoning Board of Appeals to the Planning Board as set forth in Appendix K of the 2015 Appendix Book.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion? Second. The motion has been seconded. Mr. McKean?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. What is a site plan? A site plan is an architectural plan. It is also a landscape architectural document showing where any proposed buildings are going to be built. It includes detailed engineering drawings of proposed improvements to a given lot. This warrant article before you determines that the planning board has approval of those plans, drawings, and documents. Site planning should be a function of the planning board, just as appeals should be the task of the zoning board of appeals. The process as it stands now has no appeals venue other than a lawsuit with the court system, costing both the applicant and the town money. This warrant article for site plan review has been unanimously supported by your elected planning board and will help us to do the job we were elected to do. We have worked long and hard to bring you this warrant article to its current form. Our 9-member planning board has been discussing site plan review for many months. We have held open public meetings and we have brought the citizens petition into compliance with the necessary Massachusetts state rules and regulations. We have expended a great deal of time, energy, and effort to bring this article for passage. 132 people signed the citizens petition. The petition requests that the site plan review become a planning board function. I ask those of you here today for your support of this article. As part of this opening statement, I would also like Bill Derry, the sponsor of the citizens petition, to explain his reasoning for supporting the planning board. Thank you.
I recognize Bill Derry at this time.
May I have a clicker? I'll just click it. How about this one? You all read that? No, let's go on to the reasons.
I can see that.
Before I begin, I'd like to make a little explanation. On your sheet, you will see 2 motions. The first one we're addressing now by the planning board, the second one is by the citizens petition. I'd like to explain why both of them are there and what's going on. The original citizens petition came up with, I think we found 3 sections in which we make changes. The planning board chair found 2 more. The town council found another 3. So they decided that it was very complicated because there were so many iterations of the present bylaw. Now, there is a small difference. In the original citizens petition, there was no definitive statement about appeal. Mr. Bola had asked that maybe this could be considered, and the planning board inserted a definitive statement. It was my understanding in the citizen petition that case law already had in there the appeals route, which would mean that the site plan would then go to the ZBA. But now there is a definitive statement, and that makes it different, and that's why you have 2 of them. Whether you pass or not pass, the next one will be removed. Now here we go. What's the reasons for doing this? Well, first of all, the most important one is the balance of power. Presently, the site plan review is under the ZBA. Clearly, it is a planning board responsibility. Note, the ZBA is appointed by the Board of Selectmen. Number 2, HDC is a separate corporation for downtown planning. It's another planning function outside the planning board. Note again that the appointment of the planning board, the appointment of the HDC is by the Board of Selectmen. 3, the new town planner reports to the town manager, who in turn reports to the, yes, you guessed it, Board of Selectmen. Recently, a normal process of selecting an alternate to the planning board was changed by the Board of Selectmen. They waited 2 months, rejected the planning board's unanimously voted candidate, and inserted 2 that they had picked. I see a pattern. The next item up here is kind of self-explanatory. I think I only know one town that is different. 98% of all towns in Massachusetts follow the Massachusetts suggested that the planning board be, the site plan review be under the planning board. Land issues are what the planning board deals with all the time and have the expertise to adjudicate those issues. The present system, as Robert Kane has indicated, has no appeal. We go before the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Zoning Board of Appeals, excuse me, and there is no appeal unless you want to file a lawsuit, which is very expensive for both sides. The next item speaks to recommendations from the master plan. It's self-explanatory. And I will reiterate, the zoning board of appeals is appointed. The planning board is elected. It's a very important function in the balance of power. Lastly, it says this is a part of the overall planning function. Clearly, this function has been fragmented. It is time to consolidate all planning functions under one board and let them do what they were elected to do. This is the first step. Thank you for your time.
I recognize John. John, say
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Serafini, 601 Bay Road in Hamilton. I would like to move that we take no action on this article, as well as on the next article, for the reason that we have just appropriated $50,000 under 2-13 to study the entire zoning bylaw. And in light of that, the subject of how site plan review would fit and what body would be appropriate to administer it, well, I would think automatically be taken up. So rather than spend our time now trying to piece our way through that, I think it's better to get the expert advice from the consultants we're going to spend all this money on, get the guidance from them, and then take this up at some future date. So I would move no action on this one and the next one.
So there's a motion for no action, that is to amend the motion to be a motion for no action, or are you just recommending that we take no action?
Whatever procedurally would defer this action,
So you're making a motion to
Take no
amend the motion to be a motion to take no action?
yes, to be a motion to take no action, yes.
And there has been a second to that motion. The motion to take no action is debatable because it's an amendment, and you've already spoken. Mr. Bowler, do you wish to speak on that?
I would be in favor of taking no action.
How about you, Mr. Deere?
I'd like to reiterate that we spent over a year and going through a lot of complicated procedures and so forth, two hearings at the planning board to come to this particular point. And why would we want to do it all over again under what is probably more associated with organization rather than function? This is a functional change, and it's not an article. The $50,000, we would have to just duplicate all the work that we've done before. Thank you.
Very good. Mark Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So on the direct question that you asked about why do it, the site plan review is very complicated and is very different than what Rob McCain described it as. It's not a bunch of landscaping plans. And it is the normal regulating of permitted uses. And so I think that our existing site plan review is very complicated. The idea of parsing it out and having the resolution on the consultant figuring out what our site plan should be, our whole bylaws should be, makes a lot more sense. The idea of doing this again, doing it now and then doing it again in the future doesn't make sense. However, this board did support the planning board recommendation to change this to site plan review. I think it's very important that the citizen's petition was flawed. The planning board put in the hard work to fix it and to make it a very viable bylaw. and this board of selectmen did support them. I personally, so maybe I should go over there, but I personally have problems with it, but this board has voted to support it. The idea of doing it as no action, John Ferris said, that's very compelling. Okay, sort of untangle it, get it all square, and then address it. Because the stuff that should be ZBA will end up being ZBA, the stuff that should be planning board will end up being planning board.
Mr. McKean?
This has been a unanimous decision by the planning board, who are your elected officials. You need to realize that they know what they're taking on as well as I do, and I'm not under any misconceptions, so I happen to disagree with Mark on this.
Yes.
Betty Gray, 24 Lee Park. I'm just a lay person, but it doesn't make sense to me that you go before the appeal board first before you get a decision from the planning board. An appeal board is an appeal board. Once you go before them, you have no other appeal. But if the planning board approves something or disapproves something, that's when you go before an appeal board. You don't do it the other way around. And since 98% of our Massachusetts towns do it the other way, that's how we should do it. Why don't we get in sync with the rest of the state? And I don't think we should postpone it at all. A citizen petition was made, and it's viable, and let's do it.
Bill Muller?
Yeah, I just, at this point, like to clarify, the way site plan review works now, you don't go to the zoning board and then to the planning board. The planning board presently has an gives essentially an advisory opinion to the zoning board. So it's not the way Mrs. Gray described it. Jack Lawrence is the one who said Hamilton's unique, so the fact that 98% of the towns may do it a different way. So,
Jack Lawrence?
Jack Lawrence, 105 Rock Maple. I can just tell you that when back when the Government Study Committee was meeting, we did have a visit, came before us, a contingent from the Department of Revenue, who specialized in going around looking at towns, how they were structured and so forth. And at the time they said, you know, you people are way out of line with everybody else, reflecting the 98%. They said, we don't really know why you do this, and it's not, in our opinion, we can't understand what possible reason you might have for persisting in this. So I think it's a pretty simple structural fix that we are looking at today, and I urge you all to vote for it. Thank you.
Okay, well, let's get voting on this one. We have two steps. First of all, there's a motion to amend, put forward by John Serafini, to amend the main motion to be take no action. We're ready to vote on that. All those in favor of the amendment of the motion to take no action, please hold up your cards. The motion to amend the main motion to take no action. Hold up your cards. Okay, the voting against the amendment to take no action. Hold up the motion to amend does not pass, and we proceed to vote on the motion.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Voter again.
yeah, I didn't want to use my pearly words of wisdom if we were going to take no action, but I do have a few other quick things to say. I think I would want to stick mainly to the land use question, but since it's been come up about the balance of power and elected versus appointed, I would, we do have a balance of power. Town meeting is the legislature, and so I'll leave it to others to decide if we need a troika system where we have the town meeting the selectmen and the planning board running the town. And also, as far as that they're elected, well, yes and no. There is a contested election this year. I did look in the last 10 years, which there were about a dozen seats open, there was precisely one contested position. So it's illusory that it's that the voters really have a choice. But really on the land use issues, I would say, well, first thing, the old saw, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. At the risk of patting myself on the back, I think, but there have been others in the position, I'm just one member. I think this system has worked very well for decades. There is, we know the area, when there are appointments, the selectmen are careful to appoint a variety of skills. We have a lawyer, we have an engineer, a builder, and an architect, and a couple of citizens. So we have the different skills that are needed covered. So I think it's working well. I don't want to go too much down the rabbit hole of appeals versus planning, but site plan review is really a permitting function. As someone said, almost always these are permitted as of right uses, but they need to come and have input from a town land use board about the details of it. This is different than it's not really a planning function, which involves things like the master plan, writing bylaws, subdivisions, and that sort of thing. So I think this is really, we handle variances, non-conforming uses. This is really in our ballpark, so I think it should stay that way. It's interesting, it's come up about what has been recommended. So the master plan, which runs 150 pages, there was a statement about how other cities and towns do it, and maybe even would be a good thing, but in literally dozens of implementation recommendations, I went through them, there was no recommendation that site plan review be transferred to the planning board. I guess probably the last thing I'll say is, I think you need to consider, granted this is going to be a long-term change, but workload. As I said, the planning board currently meets 2 evenings a month. My understanding is they've been considering going to 3 evenings a month. They're dealing with, as I said, they're writing the bylaws. They have a number of special permit responsibilities for major projects, like senior housing. Longer term planning. The master plan that's cited was prepared by and for the planning board, and the zoning board, we meet once a month, and I don't think it makes any sense for us to become like the Maytag repairman and not have any business coming over.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Peter Clark.
I'm standing up just to try and clarify the record. Every site plan review that goes on comes before the planning board first. And we spend a week or 2 and then probably ask the applicant to come back again. And then we spend another several times. It's like having a hearing process to tear apart all the details of what's on the site plan. And we look at all the factors, and then instead of taking a vote and having the power to influence the site plan, all we get to do is to write an opinion, which is sometimes, at least it's read out at the ZBA, but they have the full right to change everything. And so when a project is a big project, be it a shopping center or recently the Cumberland Farm, we have no confidence that we're representing the citizens. We're just there to advise the ZBA, and then they get to do what they want with it. So I think it's very important that you understand the planning board should have the power and have the final say on what the site plan actually is. When we did the high school and the middle school, we recommended, for example, that there should be low-intensity lights and that there shouldn't be lights left on. They should be with timers, not left on all night. But take a look. Anytime you drive by the high school, we're spending millions of dollars, so to speak, with the lights on 24/7. And nothing gets implemented because of the details of the site plan.
I would say that is dead wrong. That over the 15 years I've been involved in the CBA, we have adopted well over 90% of the recommendations of the planning board. I can think of one instance where we directly did not adopt their recommendations.
Thank you. And finally,
Cecily, 209 Bay Road. I am glad that you mentioned Cumberland Farms. I think that is the perfect example of why things do need to change. However, I don't support this particular change. What I do support is fixing the bylaws first, because everyone's hands are tied. Until that happens and those changes are implemented, it doesn't really matter who has the site plan review, the power, because we have very little power as it stands. We're lucky, in a sense, we're lucky Cumberland Farms is there, because it could be something far worse. And I don't think Cumberland Farms is a good thing for our community, but it's there. So let's get our house in order first, and then figure out who should make the decisions. But let's get the regulations and the zoning all set up first. Thank you.
thank you. I think we're ready to vote. We're on the main motion, which is that the town amend the zoning bylaw, same to transfer site plan review authority from the zoning board of appeals to the planning board as set forth in Appendix K of the 2015 Appendix book. All those in favor of the motion for the change, please raise your cards. Thank you. All those against the motion for the change, please raise yours. This requires a 2/3 vote. I'm going to have to take a counter vote. Tell us.
Let's see.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Right.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion to make the switch, please stand, and we will have a count of voting. Tell us how we vote.
Help me? Where outside?
Okay, all those voting nay or against the motion to make the transfer, please stand. 2/3 vote and did not pass. Moving on. Moving on to Article 3-4 for the citizen petition site plan review of the single motion. Do we have a motion on this article? Bill Derry? You forgot to bring it to the late with
I move that the town take no action on this time.
it. Is there a second to the motion to take no action? Motion is seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion to take no action passes. We can move on to Article 3-5, which is an amendment to the communication towers and telecommunications antenna facilities zoning bylaw. I recognize Jeff Beal.
Jeff Neal, Chairman of the Planning Board. Mr. Moderator, I move that the town amend the zoning bylaws, section 6J, communications tower and telecommunications antenna facilities, to read as follows. 6J 5B4 shall be, quote, distance from all existing structures shall be at least 200 feet, excluding existing structures on the list. 6J 6C shall read, tower height shall be limited to 110 feet and shall be designated to accommodate the use for which the application is made. However, applications for communication towers in excess of 110 feet may be approved if accompanied by a detailed technical information showing as to the necessity of the additional height, co-location, reduced tower density, and community acceptance. Section 6J 6B shall read, all communication towers greater than 110 feet in height shall be a monopole in height.
Okay, before I ask for a second, I apologize. I was supposed to point out that there's a slight amendment in the language from in Appendix M. So that the second section, VIJ6C, should read, however, applications for communication towers in excess of 110 feet may be approved if accompanied by detailed technical information showing as to the necessity of the additional height, co-location, reduced tower density, community, etc. That was a change from what was printed in the appendix, but included in the motion by Mr. Miller. One technical question on the third, on the VIJ 6C, on the second line. I think I heard you say designated means did you intend to say designed to accommodate the use?
So the last line, I would have intended to say density.
Design.
Density.
Second line. Second line.
Oh, design, yes.
Yeah. That's what I thought you meant to say.
Sorry about that.
Is there a second to the motion? Second. The motion has been seconded. Mr. Mueller, could you explain what this is all about?
Yes, thank you. As many of you know, there are areas in town with very poor cell phone reception, and we view it as a safety risk. There are people who live in places, and I'm one of them, who cannot actually make a cell phone call out of the home, or receive one into the home, or maintain one even if we can do it. And that's the problem, because if, there are a lot of people who've got rid of their landlines, save about $700 a year. And my biggest concern, the planning board's concern, is that there are babysitters taking care of kids, for example, at night, or other people in the home when there's an emergency and they need to call 911 and they can't get a call out. That's a very serious problem. So last fall, I met with the Board of Selectmen and we talked about things we should do to change this. My initial thought was that we should first retain an expert and find out what the problems were in town, what we needed to do to fix it, and then figure out how we needed to change the zoning bylaw to accommodate the appropriate Patrick Reffett started with us in November, I asked him to get involved in this, and he went out and did a great deal of investigation. And what he found was really unexpected. He found that an expert investigation would cost tens of thousands of dollars, which obviously we'd rather not spend if we don't have to. But the cell tower companies and the other contractors and so forth who really don't want to talk to us because of the present state of our bylaw would talk to us if we amended our bylaw as proposed. And there are companies out there where if there's a bylaw like was proposed, they'll come in and they'll do the study on their own time, and they'll make a proposal to the town, and hopefully they might make money off it by erecting the pole and so forth. So it would help us. So this is what we propose, to increase the height to 110 feet, and it would reduce the setback to 200 feet. The application would still have to be approved by the planning board. Now, I understand that we're going to look at, when we're going to talk about redoing our bylaws in the future with the $50,000, and I understand the logic of maybe putting this off until that's done, but here's the problem. This is a safety issue now. I don't want to wake up in the morning sometime and turn on the news and see that there was a tragedy in Hamilton because someone couldn't make a cell call out to get 911 assistance. So I ask that you all vote in favor of this change in bylaw.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? We all understand perfectly just what's involved here. If not, let's move to a vote. Motion is the amendment of the zoning bylaw as discussed. Being a zoning bylaw requires a 2/3 vote. We ask that all in favor kindly raise your voter cards. Thank you. All those opposed, please raise your voting cards. Motion passes by 2/3, and I so declare. Thank you. That concludes our zoning section of the warrant. And we have already dealt with Article 4-1. We're about to take up Article 4-2. And I think after that, we only have very little which we can't do. So I recognize Lyndall Wilnow, the Board of Health, to make a motion.
Lyndall Wilnow, 51 Mill Street, Chairman of the Board of Health. I move that the town amend the town bylaws by adding a new chapter 35, Environmental Hazards, Reduction of Waste, comprising the language set forth in Appendix N of the 2015 Appendix book.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Mr. Wilnow, do you have somebody that you want to have?
I would like to seek the
I will
floor
recognize
to
Susan Wolf to make the presentation.
My name is Susan Wolfert, and I serve on the Board of Health. This proposed bylaw concerns the banning of thin, single-use plastic bags, which is these bags, and blown polystyrene take-out cups and containers known as styrofoam, which is these types of containers. It does not include dry cleaning bags, bags for produce or newspapers, and the styrofoam trays such as used by grocery stores for meats. The reason for this proposed bylaw is the harm plastics and styrofoam are causing to the environment, especially the ocean, and the negative impact this has on human health. Some facts. The U.S. uses and disposes of 100 billion plastic bags a year. Plastic bags are designed to be used once for a very brief period of time and then thrown away, yet they're made to last forever. Plastic bags and styrofoam cannot be added to curbside recycling, not in any town in Massachusetts. Inadvertently recycled plastic bags jam recycling machinery several times daily. A National Geographic report in February of this year revealed that 8 million tons of plastic end up in the ocean every year currently. This is the equivalent of 5 grocery bags full of plastic on every foot of coastline worldwide. Plastic bags and styrofoam photodegrade into smaller and smaller pieces, until they become microplastics, which currently outnumber plankton in every ocean sample taken. The pieces are small enough that it makes cleaning the ocean possible. Plastic lasts for hundreds of years, styrofoam estimated at 1,000. Chemicals called persistent organic pollutants bond with microplastics in the water. They are made up of PCBs, dioxin, and DDT that are run off from pest control, manufacturing, and agriculture. As fish consume the plastic along with the plankton, the chemicals are absorbed into their flesh. As larger fish eat them, the concentration increases. We then consume the bigger fish and thus eat these chemicals. These fish are also used as fertilizer on our crops. The EPA considers these chemicals toxins and carcinogens. Plastics in the ocean directly harm more than 100,000 marine mammals, including whales, dolphins, seals, and turtles, and over 1 million birds by ingestion, suffocation, and entanglement. This whale was found with 30 pounds of plastic in its stomach. The turtle was found to have plastic and plastic bags in its stomach, both causing their death. I am not suggesting that people in Hamilton litter, but as you will see, there is no good way to dispose of plastic. I thought the ideal way to dispose of plastic bags was to recycle them, but then I did some research. I discovered that only 10% of plastic bags get recycled in the state. I learned that only clean plastic bags get recycled, and that most of what is recycled is the heavier plastic film you see in stores wrapped around boxes on a pallet for transportation and storage. Over 40% of our plastic bags get shipped overseas, mostly to Asia, where workers are paid minimal wages to sort them. What's left ends up in their landfills or are burned in unregulated incinerators that significantly add toxins to the air. To recycle styrofoam, a town must pay to have a company come and collect it periodically, and then only clean styrofoam of certain types and colors. The styrofoam must be saved in your home until collection day. This is not very practical or sustainable. In both cases, recycled plastic bags and styrofoam are converted into items that can never be recycled again and end up in landfills or burned. So what about our incinerators? We use a waste-to-energy incinerator that burns our trash to reduce its volume and creates some energy from the heat generated. The toxins from plastic, however, remain in the ash or become airborne in the smoke and are mostly, although not completely, trapped by the scrubbers. The leftover waste and toxins after incineration are then disposed of in landfills. The toxins can be leached into the groundwater. Solid waste landfills are not the answer either, as plastic and styrofoam do not degrade when buried and easily become airborne and escape. So what are the alternatives? We are not advocating paper over plastic, as paper has its own environmental issues. We are advocating reusable and recyclable. Customers can bring their own bags, which are very light, much stronger than plastic, washable, and hold the same volume or more. Restaurants and convenience stores can use recycled plastic or compostable to-go products instead of styrofoam. Plastic bags and/or styrofoam have already been banned in the following communities, and more communities have a proposed ban underway. I believe this will have to be a grassroots effort that will hopefully lead to a statewide ban. A group of residents conducted a resident survey with a majority in favor of the ban. We personally visited over 30 businesses in Hamilton. The support was overwhelming. All but one business was immediately supportive, and upon second visit, this business expressed support if the ban is passed. The vast majority was either not affected by this or had already made changes on their own to paper or recyclable items, despite the fact that many were not aware of the proposed ban. Many thanked us. The three largest businesses, CVS, Dunkin' Donuts, and Crosby's, have dealt with this type of ban in other communities already and were not surprised to hear of it. Businesses would have up to 1 year from the date of approval by the Attorney General to use up supplies. The Board of Health held a public hearing with no opposition registered. The goal is to stop the plastics and styrofoam from getting into the oceans. That must happen at the source, which is us. I believe Hamilton is a green community, as evidenced by our commitment to recycling and composting. We are a coastal community, even though we are not directly on the water. The question is, are we willing to make some simple changes to our behaviors to support a cause that clearly benefits both the environment and us? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've been involved in packaging for longer than I would say 90% of the people here. I'm 80 years old. The argument was just made is rampant with errors. Plastic bags are made of 1 to 2 polyethylene. Plastic bags out of polyethylene have no additives. There are none of these things. What the speaker was talking about are other materials other than the plastic bags. I can't speak to polystyrene, I don't like it. But I do know about plastic bags. What are you going to get to replace the plastic bag? Well, if you were really a 100% citizen, you'd come in with your own recyclable bag. Or you would bring the bag back to the supermarket and ask them to get rid of it. Because you can't put it in recycling things. The plastic film just destroys the grinding equipment. So we're talking basically about going to paper. Now let's be sure about paper. How many bags we get are lined paper bags? What are they lined with? Yep, plastic. Okay, let's talk about another thing. We're talking about the countryside. I agree, it's disgusting to see all these bags around. But I also know something else. Paper is a far greater environmental hazard than plastics. The air we breathe, to make paper, takes 8 times more energy. Most of that energy is the kind of pollutants we don't want in the air. What about the water? Paper is a far greater danger to our water system than polyethylene. What about the cost of transporting paper? Just think of the fuel that has to be consumed to transport 1,000 paper bags versus 1,000 plastic bags. I think this article needs to be sent back to committee. It's not been thought out. We are asking people to make a decision to get rid of plastics. That's going to affect the water we drink, the air we breathe. Let's go back, come back to our group and say, here's what we want you to do. Not suggest what we want you to do. We recycle cans and bottles now. You pay a nickel for every one. Should I say to the people, if you want plastic, you gotta pay the deposit? Hey, we need more money, that might be a way. So I say, before we ban, let's plan. Thank you.
Bill Boyd?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'll be very brief. So this is a matter of freedom of choice at the highest level. We are supposed to be in the land of the free. We have a choice in this matter. We know that people have changed their behavior. Most of us probably do use permanent bags that we take in. But on we went and talked to all the merchants, but if we, the customers, didn't want both plastic and paper, say at Crosby's, they wouldn't give it to us. If there were a cheaper alternative, they'd already be using it. So make no mistake, this will cause inconvenience and cost to us, the consumers, and to the businesses. Of course, they'll pass that cost on to us. Because this is town government and the Board of Health bringing this forward. And so the rationale is that it's for our health. Well, it does nothing for the health of Hamilton citizens, and that's what we need to be concerned with. As individuals, sure, we should be concerned with what goes on in the world. But our plastic bags, if they do get in the trash, they get burned and turned into electricity. And we're going to we're sending stuff there whether we ban them or not. So I think we should not take away our right to have the choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandy? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Lemon Willow. I just want to address Mr. Huff's comments. This is not a paper versus plastic issue. I mean, I think it is reusable versus non-reuse. And addressing Mr. Buller's comments, if everyone brought in their own bags, there'd be no additional cost, and actually less cost for the grocery stores to pass on to you. And one final thing, the point on the plastic bags and additional chemicals is the additional chemicals in the environment binding to materials in the plastic bags. Yes, there may be one element, polystyrene in the plastic bags, but those are bound to by the toxins, PCB and dioxin. It was not meant to deceive, it was just a statement.
Thank you.
Virginia Nicholson, 318 Broad Street. I'm aware of all the reasons for doing this, and I basically would love to see plastic taken out of all my streets. Absolutely. However, what bothers me isn't what the bottom line is of reducing pollutants in our world. What gets to me is that our town, like our society, has decided that they need to pass laws with punitive punishment. All punishment is punitive. And instead of taking the time and effort, and if it involves money as well, and try to teach people. There's always going to be people that are going to pollute. And most of us would, and most of us, I think, in town have been trying very hard to reduce our use of plastic already from what I've seen. So I refer to that as a need to educate, not a need to legislate. And we can look back in other laws such as the seatbelt law or the helmet law, both of which I've always used my seatbelt and I've always used my helmet when I was motorcycling, even if it was up in New Hampshire, or Maine where I could take it off. Because I happened to be in using, and I was educated in why. I didn't like the fact that the government said, you're going to have to do it or we're going to sack your hand. That's what it feels like. They're treating our children and you're taking away your right to choose. Of course, this is just one little town. But don't forget, this little town burns their plastic. And even though the lady from the Board of Health says that still something gets into the ocean, she didn't provide any proof. Maybe because of the blow of the wind, but the structure of that plastic is certainly different than the plastic itself being simply dumped into water. So I urge you all to encourage to vote this one down for not the ideas, and to encourage the folks that would like us to do these things to instead educate. Go right into schools and start a grade one, get them going, kids teach their parents. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Recognize Greta Clark.
You knew I was going to get out of it, right? You know, we will vote. And I hope you will vote for your health. The reason the Board of Health brought this to you is you and we and all of our fellow citizens in this country have polluted our oceans and are polluting our ground. You didn't listen to what Susan said. The oceans are no longer the oceans as we know them. The fish you eat have the poison in them. And this is one of the things they're trying to protect us from. Granted, we're a small town, but there are 11 towns now who have started this movement, and we're hoping that by joining them, even though we're small, we're insignificant, and even though it may have a small impact on us, we're hoping it will contribute to a statewide movement that's going to convince the legislature that the entire state needs to stop the production of polyethylene. Jack Huck may think that or say that it's not poison, but I researched it too. Now maybe we've not looked at the same things, but I've learned that polyethylene when it breaks down into its microplastics, is highly toxic. It draws to it DDT, only it becomes 10 times, 100 times more poisonous than the DDT we use. frightening story that we're talking about, and I hope you'll take it seriously. You can say, let's educate other people, let's just tell people not to use it or bring reusable bags. It doesn't happen unless you pass laws to make it difficult for them to do so. Only 8% of this kind of plastic gets recycled, or 10%, whatever figure you want to say. And gee, it may be nice to try to educate people, but unfortunately it's not going to happen. We've got to do it through legal action. Thank you.
I'll give you 10 seconds. 15.
Polyethylene is made of two monomers, ethylene and ethylene. There are no other ingredients in polyethylene. What you just said, I'm sorry, but I can go on the internet and I can read all kinds of stupid comments. We all do. We all vote. But I'm sorry, you're totally wrong. Polyethylene does not pollute the environment.
I think we're ready to vote. Everybody's ready to vote. Sorry, Jane.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I just have to say, I'm a chemistry teacher, and I think we know that polyethylene is made of carbon and hydrogen. It just doesn't break down, obviously. It's not like ionic solids, remember your chemistry. It's covalent, and that's why it breaks up into small pieces. And I'd like to join Marblehead, Manchester, because they're seacoast towns. They want to protect the environment, the ocean. Let's join San Francisco. How about the state of Hawaii? What about the country of Italy? Let's ban plastic bags, get rid of the styrofoam, help our environment, and get better.
We're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion to amend the town bylaws by adding a new chapter for environmental hazards reduction of waste, comprising the language set forth in the appendix N, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. The ayes have it, and okay, we have just a few, next one maybe the one will spend time, a lot of time on it, we can move through the rest. Article 4-3, water runoff to roadway. Proposed bylaw. I recognize Scott Madden.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that town amend the town bylaws by adding a new section 9 to chapter 10, ways to read. No person shall, during the period from November 15th to April 15th inclusive, discharge or permit to be discharged any groundwater, including rising groundwater, uncontaminated groundwater filtration, as defined by 40 CMR section 35.005, and uncontaminated pump groundwater onto a public way or sidewalk unless first obtaining a permit from the Board of Selectmen or designee. Such permit shall require the permittee comply with all provisions of Chapter 30. And I further move to amend Section 8, parenthesis B, of Chapter 30 to read, the following non-stormwater discharges or flows are exempt from the prohibition of non-storm waters, provided that the source is not a significant contributor to the pollutant to the municipal storm drain system, and such discharge complies with the requirements of Chapter 10, Section 9 of these bylaws.
Nicely done, Mr. Madden. Is there a second to the motion? Does everybody understand what this is all about? No. Okay, one part of us want to do it.
Home stretch, folks, hang in there. This is meant to keep folks from pumping water out onto our ways, causing ice hazards potentially for travelers. It doesn't prohibit it. It means during the winter months, we'd like you to come in and so that we can regulate it. What we found is hoses were not put in the right place, draining water onto ways, causing hazardous conditions. We've had to send out our trucks to salt and sand or otherwise mitigate the runoff, and so we're asking you to approve this bylaw so that during the winter months, you at least have to come in, explain what you're doing, where you're pumping the water, and it gives the DPW through the selectmen the opportunity to say, well, wait a minute, if you add 10 feet of hose and you have a discharge closer to the drainage, it's not a problem, as opposed to flooding the roadway or sidewalk and causing perhaps treacherous conditions. Thank you.
Will there be a permit fee for the, for the permits? Any questions or comments on that? If not, let's vote. All those in favor of the, what? Mr. Weiner.
Robert Weiner, here on Orchard Road. Sorry, everybody down here. If you should drive by Orchard Road, anytime when it's raining out, you will see hoses from every house. We are in a very high groundwater area. There's a nearby swamp, and there is nothing to do with the water other than to pump it out of the street. About 8 years ago, you probably remember, had a super rainy spring. Actually, our sump pumps used to pump into our backyard, but our lot grades gently towards the street. It actually turned our entire backyard into a swimming pool, flooded the side yard, and ran down into the street anyway. So we have, since that time, moved our pump into our front yard. As much as can be absorbed in the front yard is absorbed, and the rest of it flows down into the street. At the time that we were reconfiguring our sump pump drainage, I called town hall and said, there is no storm drain located immediately near our house, but if you'd like to, at our expense, we'll dig a hole, tap into the stormwater line, and pump our sump pumps directly into the stormwater line. I was informed that would be a violation, and if I attempted to do that, I would be arrested. So I would be happy to comply with any reasonable limits on what to do with groundwater, other than letting my basement flood. So if we can either vote no to this amendment, or provide some alternatives to make it more reasonable, to have certain permanent permits for certain houses in certain areas. I tell you, our entire neighborhood pumps stormwater all spring. And some of it, like with this snow melt now, it's been, our sump pump kicks on twice a minute, every hour for the last 2 weeks. So I realize it's before April 15th, and I would have to be talking to people to do what just kind of has to be done. So that's my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like somebody to respond to that problem. How it would be affected by the vinyl.
Again, it's not meant to prohibit, it just means to regulate so that there is at least input into where the water is being discharged so that it doesn't create hazardous conditions.
If at all possible.
To the best extent possible.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Janet Aldridge, Hamilton Housing. I've done some research on the FEMA problems with the water table shifting all over the place. So I'm concerned that this whole issue, not to put myself in the middle of it, isn't premature before people realize, especially after a winter like this, and we haven't even started on all the spring rains, who's going to have water and where's it going to go? So I think they should come up with some new drainage plans, period. I don't think that housing, people who have water problems should be punished because they bought a house with a high water table. So that's all.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, let's proceed to a vote. This is just a simple majority vote. I'm not going to reread what our chairman of selectmen has so artfully read before. So all of those in favor of the motion under Article 4-3, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. Let's hold up the old things together. Better looking. Okay, all those in favor of aye, please raise your hands. All right, those opposed, please raise. Okay, I think we need to take a count and vote on charge. All those in favor of the motion, please stand. All the tellers, enter their account.
This help?
And you know what, we're counting before.
Maybe the next section. I offered them and they said, if I put these before, I should figure it Plus, they want to get pumped shit out of it. Yeah, make some money. Keep 6 of them. Who's going to come on?
Okay, so are you voting?
Okay, please sit down, and all those voting nay, please stand.
Excuse me, are you voting? I'm voting against. And you're asking for the no votes now. And you're not voting.
He said he's going to spray water in front of my house. He calls this place soggy water. Soggy plenty of water. I slosh it up
Article 4-4, term for planning board members. I recognize Peter Clark.
I move that the town set the length of term of the planning board members at 3 years and amend the town bylaw by adding the following sentence to Chapter 3, Section 13. The term of office for planning board members be 3 years.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion? Motion has been seconded. Mr. Clark?
Very simple. We want more participation in town. I think Bill Bowler pointed out there are not enough people coming out, and we felt that it was an imposition on a citizen to serve for 5 years, and so the board unanimously approves the idea of let's make it 3 years and have a lot of turnover.
Any discussion on this motion? If not, let's vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. Article 4-5, certification of town clerk. I point out that this is one of 3 motions which are very similar but involve different statutes. I recognize Scott Matter.
I move that the town accept the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 19K, regarding compensation for a certified town clerk.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Motion is seconded. Will you explain what this is all about, please?
Yeah,
Michael Lombardo.
Mass General Law provides for the town clerk, the treasurer collector, and the assessor upon receiving certification to get a $1,000 stipend. We want to encourage professional training and feel that this is a good thing to do so that they're recognized for their hard work.
And is there a financial impact to these motions?
$1,000.
Is that different from what we're now? We're not paying it yet?
It's just adopt the statute.
I thought I heard earlier that we're not changing anything from what our practice has been.
Received the $1,000 stipend, we're just asking to adopt the statute so that it's all.
Thank you.
Did everyone hear that?
So each of them currently, upon reaching certification, have been receiving the $1,000 stipend. We realize that we never adopted the statutes, and so we're asking you to adopt it just to make sure everything falls in line.
It's already in the budget.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion under 4-5 passes. 4-6, Mr. Madden.
I move that the town accept the provisions of General Law, Chapter 41, General Law, Chapter 41, Section 108P, regarding compensation for a certified collector or treasurer.
Is there a second to the motion? Any discussion? Not, let's vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Article 4-7, assessors. Mr. Matter.
I move that the town accept the provisions of General Law, Chapter 59, Section 21A, regarding compensation for a certified assessor.
Is there